Over the years, our hospitals and courts have witnessed some major public health scandals, tobacco and asbestos being two of the largest and most enduring. Well, right now, a new storm is emerging, and incredibly, the culprit may just be sitting on a shelf in your backyard shed. 4 years ago, the World Health Organization warned that the herbicide glyphosate, the main ingredient in weed killer Roundup, probably causes cancer. Created by chemical giant Monsanto, Roundup is the most widely used weed killer on Earth. Sprayed on everything from gardens to footpaths to fields of crops. It is quite simply everywhere. Now, in a series of landmark verdicts, juries in America agree the stuff can kill you. With the legal floodgates open and the first Australian case looming, farmers and gardeners are holding their breath. If ever there was an illustration of the divide between town and country, it's over the use of Roundup. While most in the cities look at the herbicide with increasing suspicion, in the bush, Roundup is as fundamental to farming as an Akubra hat and good rain. So this stuff is extremely important for farmers.
Absolutely. It was like a revolution when it arrived. It's enabled us to actually use what we call no-till. So it means instead of ploughing up the land every time you want to sow a crop, you actually leave the old crop on top of the soil. It protects the soil.
Fiona Simpson is both a farmer and the president of the National Farmers Federation. So if farmers didn't have Roundup, if they weren't allowed to use it, would it be a game changer?
It's a huge game changer, and in actual fact the advent of Roundup was a game changer, because in the old days we spent our whole time just ploughing the soils, trying to dig up the weeds in that way, which then exposed us to A, lot of fossil fuel use, but B, also the environmental impacts on soils.
So there's a lot riding on this.
There's a lot riding on it, and you know, farmers across Australia at the moment really are incredibly worried about this hype that's going on worldwide about the court cases in America.
And this is the man who triggered the legal tsunami, Lee Johnson from California, who right now is one of the most famous cancer patients in the world. I can see those lesions on your hands. That's it's not good, is it?
Yeah, you know, like this hand is in worse condition than this hand right now, but so that's the big thing with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, is that your white blood cells just start to do too much dancing around and it gets a whole different party happening.
Lee has incurable non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and is the first ever person to successfully sue Monsanto and its herbicide Roundup for causing cancer. So your victory has meant that there are now thousands of other cancer sufferers coming forward and suing Monsanto.
Right.
You've really unleashed a monster, haven't you?
Something has happened.
From fairways to family homes, from parks to paddocks, Roundup and its principal ingredient, called glyphosate, has been used around the world and across Australia for 40 years. It's been marketed as a harmless herbicide.
No need to pump, just point and shoot. Hit him in the leaves and it kills to the root. Roundup, extended control.
A superhero in the eternal fight against evil weeds. Roundup's manufacturer, Monsanto, points to 800 studies saying it's perfectly safe.
For y'all that don't know, I am an integrated pest manager / groundsman. I get dirty every day.
The people who trained you in this, in using it,
Yeah.
what did they tell you about the safety?
They said it's safe enough to drink. They said you can wear PPE if you need to, or if you think you should. If you don't need to, it's okay as long as you shower after.
Sorry, safe enough to drink?
Oh yeah, I heard that more than once, safe enough to drink.
Lee Johnson didn't take any chances though. He always wore his PPE, personal protective equipment, when he was killing weeds here at Benicia High School, north of San Francisco, where he worked as a groundsman between 2012 and 2015. This is just one of the schools where you used to spray.
This is actually the hill that I was spraying when my biggest exposure happened.
Well, when the hose broke.
Yeah, when the hose broke.
This school now only holds bad memories for Lee after he was drenched in Roundup when the hose broke. When you had that malfunction here on the hill, it just washed inside your suit.
I had on my Tyvek suit, which has a little lapel right up here, collar. So it got down in the lapel, it got down in the collar, it got down on there in my face, everywhere on my neck. So after I took off the Tyvek suit, my work shirt was wet and everything was wet.
Soaked in it?
Yeah, soaked in it down to my skin.
You were covered in poison,
yeah,
effectively, but you still thought that was okay.
You're right, because I got it on me a lot. I got it on me all the time. Every morning that I was spraying, I always get the drift, I always get a little bit on my cheeks, on my forehead, because I only could have so much coverage.
In 2014, Lee developed a rash on his knee that started to spread over his entire body.
It was serious, it was very ugly, and it became painful. So I went to get help from a local clinic, and yeah, it just snowballed from there, where I ended up from that doctor to a dermatologist to having biopsies to being diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Lee wasn't out to create history, but he started suspecting Roundup was the cause of his terminal cancer. Running out of time, and with a young family, he decided to take Monsanto on.
He had a type of cancer called mycosis fungoides, which is a type of lymphoma that was very aggressive. And that's actually why his case was the first one to go to trial.
Brent Wisner was the lead attorney in Lee Johnson's case, which went to trial in California last year. It was his job to convince a jury that Roundup causes cancer.
Right now, we're in that moment when the first lawsuits expose the truth about cigarettes. We're in the same exact moment right now, historically, for Roundup. 40 years from now, we're gonna look back at this time and go, what fools we were. Of course it causes cancer. How did it take us so long to figure it out? But in that fight, in that moment, it's hard to see that history that's being made right now.
Madam Foreperson, does the jury have a verdict?
On August the 11th last year, the jury had reached its verdict.
Was the Roundup Pro or Ranger Pro design a substantial factor in causing harm to Mr. Johnson? Answer, yes.
The jury found that Roundup did cause Lee Johnson's cancer and awarded him $289 million US, later reduced to $78 million and now subject to an appeal.
It was a pretty large amount, and people in the courtroom, it was totally quiet. You know, you could hear a pin drop. It even looked like the judge was a little bit amazed. You know, it was just a really big situation at that time. It was pretty heavy.
If his victory wasn't stunning enough, Monsanto hadn't seen anything yet. In May this year, another Californian jury awarded Alva and Alberta Pilliod $1 billion each for cancers they claimed were caused by 30 years exposure to Roundup. With Roundup in danger of being trampled to death in a legal stampede, it's perhaps little wonder that at company headquarters in St. Louis, Monsanto and its new parent company, Bayer, circled the wagons and declined to be interviewed for this story. The German pharmaceutical giant Bayer paid almost 100 billion Australian dollars to take control of these Monsanto headquarters. But since Lee Johnson's breakthrough victory, perhaps it's having second thoughts about that massive purchase. You see, the list of lymphoma sufferers claiming compensation is exploding by about 200 people a week here in the US alone. So far, some 17,000 people say the weed killer is killing them. But despite those claims, the manufacturer is still insisting their product is completely safe and has no links whatsoever to any cancer.
And it's not true. They're just lying. I mean, we know that they're lying because we have the data. We have their own studies that they've themselves conducted that show when you expose animals or expose humans to this, you see genetic damage, you see lymphoma.
So, Michael, are you convinced that Roundup has caused your cancer?
Yes, I am convinced, because it kills people out there too, Liam. Not only me.
Do you think it's killing people?
Yes, it is killing people out there. And they should know that this product is not really safe to use.
Melbourne man Michael Ogliarolo was a contract gardener for 18 years and, just like Lee Johnson, sprayed Roundup regularly. He's never smoked or drunk, but in 2011 became very ill.
So I went to see the specialist. He gave me another blood test to see, what I had, and he came out with leukemia.
Leukemia?
Yep.
Very confronting when you hear that.
It is. It was just devastating. It took my whole life. It just turned, especially when the doctor said you got cancer, and I just felt, this is the end of me. You know what I mean? And I thought, this is it. I'm gone. I'm gone.
We're putting together all your medical material, and then we've got to shoot that off to all the specialists for them to comment.
With his lawyer Tony Carbone, Michael is the first Australian to file a lawsuit against Monsanto here. But with 150 cases in this one law firm alone, including farmer Ross Wild, it won't be the last.
There's no doubt in my mind what's caused my cancer. No doubt whatsoever.
There's a lot of people out there using this product and having this kind of disease, whatever it might be, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or leukemia, whatever. It's pretty serious out there.
There is an epidemic of lymphoma in our society, and it's date coincidence with the emergence and proliferation of Roundup in our culture. It's not a coincidence. We know what's causing it, and Monsanto and Bayer need to do something about it.
Coming up, are you worried about getting cancer yourself?
No, I don't know anybody that's even gotten sick.
Why farmers swear by Roundup?
We have to stay with the facts. There is no link.
And conflicting science. Who should we believe? Monsanto, now Bayer, are they telling the truth?
Certainly not from my point of view.
That's next on 60 Minutes. The recent series of million and billion-dollar verdicts finding that Roundup and its key ingredient, glyphosate, was carcinogenic has shocked farmers around the world. No more so than in America's rural heartland, down near St. Louis, the gateway to the West, where Roundup was invented 40 years ago. Out on cropping farms like J. Armstrong's, the value of Roundup to production is self-evident.
Here's an example of a large weed that's dying, and we sprayed this about 5 days ago, and it will die. Now here's grass, it kills easier, and so what it does is it lets me have a clean field. If it wasn't for this stuff would just grow like a carpet, engulf your crop.
So all that crop, all those properties using Roundup.
Right.
As far as the eye can see, all these crops are genetically modified to resist Roundup. Roundup ready means everything else growing in this field dies after spraying. This is where you keep all your weed killer?
Yeah.
Vats of the herbicide sit inside Jay's shed, ready for use. But he claims because of its selective potency, costs have been slashed and productivity has skyrocketed. You couldn't do it in a non-chemical way? Is that possible?
Well, of course, organics, they don't use chemicals.
Is that possible?
I don't think you feed the world with organic food. Studies have shown that organic food costs about 30% more than conventionally grown food.
So you wouldn't get your yield with
I wouldn't get my
this.
yield, right.
Let me ask you a personal question. So you've been using glyphosate for 40 years?
Probably, yeah.
You've been one way or the other exposed to it
right, yeah.
for 40 years. Mm-hmm. Are you worried?
No.
At all about getting cancer yourself?
No. I don't know anybody that's even gotten sick from using Roundup, or for that matter, any other chemical.
That court case hasn't changed your mind?
No.
These are American juries that are making these decisions. And as we know, juries make decisions for all sorts of reasons. And as farmers, we have to try and stick with the science.
Fiona Simpson is the boss of Australia's peak farming body, the NFF. But these juries have heard the scientific evidence from both sides.
And they've also seen with their own eyes the suffering of these people. And I think that is in itself absolutely a compelling reason to make a decision a certain way, which is why we have to stay with the science. We have to stay with the facts. And the science, as we're told it at the moment, is that there is no link.
But not all scientists agree Roundup is safe. Professor, so what's the science telling us about this right now?
Right now, we're saying there's a suggestion that it may cause cancer. There are some signals that it may cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Professor Lynn Fritchie was a member of the 2015 World Health Organization committee that labelled Roundup's key ingredient, glyphosate, a 2A carcinogen.
It means it's classified as a probable carcinogen, and that's a measure of the strength of evidence. So there's some evidence that glyphosate causes cancer, but it's not sufficient to be really certain about that.
Probably carcinogenic.
Probably carcinogenic, yes.
When Monsanto, now Bayer, says there's 800 studies saying there's absolutely no link between cancer and glyphosate, are they telling the truth?
Certainly not from my point of view. We certainly found some studies that showed an association between glyphosate and cancer, both in animals and in humans.
Would you drink it?
No, definitely not. There have been deaths in Australia from drinking glyphosate, so definitely it's not completely non-toxic.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's ridiculous.
But I think also people sometimes forget that you are surrounded by toxic chemicals in your house, in your everyday life. There's a multi-million-dollar case at the moment about talcum powder. You know, the tablets we put in our dishwasher, they are incredibly toxic, yet we wash our plates in them every day. So is it really about removing everything that's toxic from our lives, or is it actually about how you manage those risks?
What's clear in this debate is that Roundup isn't as dangerous as tobacco or asbestos. But what's also clear is that the Australian authority who regulates the use of herbicides in this country, the APVMA, has gone missing in action when it comes to protecting Australians from a potentially deadly chemical. All users of Roundup should be fully covered: gloves, goggles, respirator and protective suit. But even in the nation's capital, council workers weren't wearing masks when we filmed them with approval. So any of these people that are doing it on the verges like this, or in the backyards, you think definitely a mask as well?
Yes, they should. I mean, that's what the manufacturer recommend. It's actually a respirator, which means it actually has to have a filter in it that's filtering the product.
Well, these guys are not doing it.
No,
I haven't seen too many gardeners doing that sort of thing.
No, I've never seen a gardener doing it, no.
So this is what the majority of gardeners are picking up in Bunnings, aren't they? I mean,
yes.
Where are the safety directions on that?
So the safety directions are on the back. It says, avoid contact with the eyes and wash hands after use.
Say anything about wearing a mask or a respirator?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Well, how come that's not on the bottle?
Because it doesn't have to be under Australian regulations. The safety instructions are only available on the safety data sheet, which has to be downloaded from the web.
But why isn't the Australian regulator saying, hey, listen, to the manufacturer, you need to put those instructions on the packaging?
I have no idea. Clearly they should be saying that to the manufacturer.
When you were spraying this stuff, what sort of personal protection would you use?
I didn't use no protection, Lee, because there was no thing on the label saying you got to wear any protections. All it said on the label that don't spray near waterways, near ponds or drainage, and don't spray near animals.
They do that now.
Now.
But you have to go to the internet to the safety data sheet.
There you go. Who goes on the internet, Liam? You know what I mean?
Michael Ogliarolo is the first Australian to sue Monsanto for causing his cancer. And the list of Roundup litigants grows ever longer. All of them following in the footsteps of the man who started the Roundup stampede, Lee Johnson. Well, good luck.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
You're still hopeful?
Yeah, I'm not giving in to dying, or I like to say that I'm in control of cancer. Cancer's not in control of me, and I'm the leaf that didn't die.
Hello, I'm Liam Bartlett. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.